Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Thirsty Thursday edition of The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras, in the state known in free America as California. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
No, I tend to help out when I have the opportunity. My name is Mike Poworski, coming to you from the East Coast. That's the East Coast is the coast with the most from the co-host with the most. Here on the Rundown, we bring you two-way views and conservative news. Welcome to Thirsty Thursday.
It is always fun to enjoy Thirsty Thursday because I call it Thirsty Thursday, especially now because I have come to the point now where I limit my consumption of alcoholic beverages to the weekend, which starts on Friday. So by the time Thursday comes, I'm pretty darn thirsty.
You say limit alcohol consumption? What are you talking about?
I know it's a foreign concept to you. I get it. I get it. I'm trying to lose the COVID-19, the middle age spread. So I found one of the best ways to do that is to get rid of or at least limit the consumption of stuff that puts on calories.
Bro, just so you know, you're well past middle age unless you plan on living to be about 110. So you're good.
Yeah, pretty much. I am. So what's your point?
Middle age is about 10 years ago, just so you know.
Well, hey, I'm in denial, okay? I'm allowed to be in denial.
Gotcha. You know, I did notice. I just want to point this out for future reference. Thursday is one of the few days we don't have a singing and dancing song. So
I know we've got to work on that, but we've got to
Yeah.
we got with Thursdays, Mondays, and Fridays. Actually, Tuesdays, Thursdays are the only days we do. I've tried to find like a good version of Manic Monday, one that in particular will not, get us flagged by by the copyright censors. We're working on it. So if you guys got one out there, feel free to send it to us.
Yeah, we could dance for you more.
Yeah, there you go. We're always looking for stuff to dance to. That's what we do. That's why this is called the Old Song and Dance.
Greg and I do these programs. We go around the nation, we go around the country. We do all these shows, and as soon as we're done, we look at each other and we go, and now we dance.
And now we dance.
And now we dance. Sprockets. Now we dance.
All right, with that, let's get right into the news, shall we? Talk about a dance. All right, so interesting thing has been happening. Well, I don't know. Okay, we'll call it interesting. For years we have seen child deaths relating to firearms go down, and a lot of that has been not because of public policy, but it's been because of the investment of organizations like NSSF, like Gun Owners of America, like the NRA, into programs that help teach and promote firearm safety. Well, something interesting has been happening lately, and this is and that's in terms of the increase in the number of deaths relating to firearms for young people or for children. And that has to do with a direct tie to defunding the police. This was in WorldNet Daily. It says after 2 years of anti-cop agenda, child gun death spike nearly 50%. Here is just an example of one that was pointed out by WSB TV, an incident that occurred. Anyway, just Mike, I just kind of want to get your perspective on this. Do you see this as a thing? Is this a coincidence, or is this something? Do you believe is directly tied to the policy relating to defund the police?
So follow my thought process here. And 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe even 3 now is long enough. And I think we even saw this start under the Obama administration before the term defund the police came up, because guess what? People were not defunding the police at that point, but they were disrespecting the police at that point. And you could see what was coming on the horizon. So my thought pattern is, once we officially get into defund the police and we start talking about taking away a qualified immunity, now you've lost a number of officers on patrol. We know that we've taken away from training. We know that we've taken away from overtime. We know that we've taken away from equipment. We know that we've let officers know right out that if whether or not they've taken qualified immunity away or not, that in many jurisdictions, if you do the wrong thing according to the prosecutor or the public, you're going to be charged the next day. So police took a very, very, very hands-off approach and said, you know what? If these people, and by these people I mean criminals and people that are against the police department, if these people want to kill themselves, then let them do it. I'm not going to be aggressive. I'm not going to go out and enforce the law. I'm going to wait for a call to come, and then I'll go answer it if I feel like it's safe. Otherwise, there'll be no proactive police work here. There'll be no community policing. There'll be no anti-crime units that go out and look for criminals with firearms. We'll let them do what they want to each other, and by them I mean criminals. We'll let them do what they want to each other, and then we'll clean up the mess in the end. And I believe that's what you've seen in the last 2 or 3 years, and why those numbers have risen.
Well, and I think even this article in World Net Daily actually points it out. The challenge is that we've seen an increase in violence and violent crimes, period. And that is and that includes, by the way, domestic violence and violence against the loved ones, which in this case also includes children. And the very fact that as they've defunded the police, their ability to respond to incidences like these has diminished. And like you said, in a lot of cases, they're not getting there, or they're not able to respond, or they're not going to take action until the situation is done. And that is a direct result of, once again, reduced funding, but also policies that have been put in place that tie the hands of law enforcement to be able to act in a way in which will save lives, because they can act in a way in which will save lives that may wind up causing them to have to either take the life or harm an individual who might harm someone else. And if they're in a position where, they're going to get, where they're going to lose their job, they're going to lose their career or lose their freedom, they're less likely to act in a way in which is going to save lives.
That's the big part of this. Is it's not only the ability, and you did a real good part there covering the ability, and then at the very end you mentioned it. It's not just the ability to be able to respond; it's the desire to respond.
Right.
Take away the protections, take away the backup, take away the equipment, take away the other officers out there with them. There's no desire to respond. And again, let the chips fall where they may. We'll go and sweep it up in the end.
And it's
totally
yeah. And it's not just a callous thing. It's just, understand this. Once again, imagine if when you go to work, you could lose not just your job, you could lose your retirement, your entire future. So you get fired from your job and then you lose your entire future, right? All of your retirement. And then, oh, by the way, you could also lose your freedom. You could go to jail for doing your job. You're going to go into every situation and everything that you do with a second thought, because is this really worth me losing everything for myself and for my family? And that's just human nature.
Yep. If I just slow down and do nothing but take insurance reports, you know what? I don't have to confront anybody. I'll just do the paperwork, turn it in.
And that's the way it works. And that's why you see statistics like this happening. But Mike, that leads us then to our next story, is because I believe that even the Democratic Party is starting to recognize that the defund the police mantra that is coming from the left of their party, the progressive, the Marxist wing of the Democratic Party, even the establishment Democrats are starting to recognize that this is a problem, and it's creating a problem for them, and it will be a problem for them in the upcoming election. And as such, you have probably one of the leaders of the Democratic Party came out, Nancy Pelosi, and says, no, the defund the police is not the position of the Democratic Party. Now, it may not be the official position of the Democratic Party, but there are many within the Democratic Party that have that position. In fact, what Nancy Pelosi said, she was referring specifically to Cori Bush, and you guys have probably heard of Cori Bush if you've watched this program. She said, well, with all the respect in the world for Cori Bush, that is not the position of the Democratic Party, Pelosi said during an appearance on ABC's This Week. Community safety, to protect and defend in every way, is our oath of office. And I have sympathy. We're all concerned about mistreatment of people. Now, Mike, the thing about this is that though this is still the Democratic Party that is passing policies that is decriminalizing crime, that is taking criminals and putting them back out on the streets. And this is the same party that is electing district attorneys who refuse to prosecute those who are committing crimes, those who are attacking their constituents. Now, it may not be the official position of the Democratic Party, but it sure as heck does seem to be the policy position of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, absolutely right. And this is we know that this is the policy of the Democrat Party. We know that the only time they won't say it out loud is if you put them on stage and ask them the direct question. Otherwise, it's in all of their policies. It's in all of their legislation. And I think it's just gotten to the point where we see what's going on because of the defunding of the police. They realize this is going to be a major campaign issue, a major election day issue. So they're starting to be told by their handlers, by their media peoples, we need to kind of get away from this. We need to at least put it out there in the public that this is not what we support. Whether it's true or not, we need to try and get away from it. Because again, remember, the Democrat Party has nothing to do with the truth.
Well, no, they don't, because they live based on misinformation and lies. That is pretty much their party agenda, and so that's what they're going to promulgate. And folks, it's important that if you want to know what a party believes in, look at their policies, look at the policies that they push, and understand that these sorts of policies have always been the policies that they've introduced. The far left has introduced. It's just now the mainstream of the Democratic Party, the policymakers who are the establishment policymakers, are supporting these policies. Now, they may not say it out loud to fund the police, but if I'm taking money from law enforcement and I'm putting it in another area, and I'm passing policies that hamper the ability or discourage law enforcement from actually doing their job, well, then, yeah, you're supporting this policy. And so don't look at what they say, look at what they do. And what they do is do.
They they do very much.
They do,
Yeah,
they do so well.
exactly. Very true, Greg. Very true.
All right, we're trying. Okay, moving right along to our next story. You guys have all heard about I'm sure you've heard about the decision by Remington, the now defunct bankrupt company Remington, to settle a lawsuit with the folks over at Sandy Hook, right? Now, what you may not know is that the people who likely made those decisions were not the folks at Remington. It was the insurance company, because the insurance company in the end is the one who's going to wind up having to foot the bill for this lawsuit. And our good friend Stephen Gutowski over at the Washington Free Beacon actually just put out some information, and actually did some tweeting, pointing out that at the Reload, which is actually his website, basically put out some information denoting that NSSF has made it very, very clear that the firearms industry denounces and does not recognize, does not claim this settlement. This is not a decision made by anyone in the gun industry. This was a decision made by lawyers for the insurer, the company that insures Remington, because they want to limit their liability.
Yeah, absolutely right. In fact, this lawsuit's about 6 months old. I believe the settlement was on this, maybe.
Yeah.
When this first came out, was very clear. It took about 2 minutes worth of digging to find out that Remington had nothing to do with it. Remington Outdoor Company didn't exist any longer, and that this was clearly an insurance company settling with the plaintiffs. This had nothing to do with Remington, nothing to do with anybody in the Second Amendment industry, nothing to do with anybody in the firearm industry. This was insurance company lawyers trying to get out from underneath it. They had no desire to fight. Their public policies, ideals were different than those of Remington Outdoor Company when they still existed. So they just threw up their hands and said, "We're out. We're done." That clearly this case would have been thrown out if it had gone much further, but this was weak insurance company people deciding to make payoffs to maybe make people whole. It's ridiculous to think that an insurance company actually had a little bit of conscience, but they didn't. This was done to be a slap in the face to the industry, to try and set a precedent, to try and have PLACA overturned, so that to try and erode the protections of of lawful commerce.
Right. And by the way, just so you know, that NSSF is pretty confident that Remington in the end would have won this lawsuit. But the problem
Yes.
is the cost to the insurance company in particular of attorney's fees would have far exceeded the $73 million dollars. And that's the reason why they wound up settling.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, there was nothing left of Remington at that time. They had
Right.
no ability to fight. So,
Right.
even
So
if
the
they,
only people that would have been paying the bill was the insurance company.
yes, yes. So they decided to take the the easy route,
Yep.
so to speak. Again, they didn't have any problem. They didn't stand up and put out any policies or any statements or anything after this.
Mm-hmm.
They had no problem letting you believe that 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 they were found at fault. They rather than it being a plea deal to get down and negotiate and try and get out from underneath the more
Exactly.
expensive bill.
They're trying to limit their liability. That's what they
Yeah.
do.
Yep.
Okay. This
Exactly.
next one is kind of
That is
interesting. You guys know that
that is Stephen Gutowski at thereload.com. Make sure you check out Stephen at thereload.com there.
Yes, please make sure you check it out. Good writer, excellent writer. One of the few people who actually writes the Second Amendment well.
Yes.
Second Amendment issues. All right, now moving on to the next story. The Levi. So, any of you who know Levi Strauss, they are a woke company based in San Francisco, California. Several years ago, they took a position and invested millions of dollars into the anti-gun, gun control, gun confiscation movement. And as such, many of us, or at least I'll say for myself, I stopped buying Levi's altogether. Um, because not just because of the gun stuff, but because of other woke things that they had gotten involved in. I couldn't see myself benefiting that company any longer. Well, evidently, excuse me, I am not alone. The president or the former brand president for Levi Strauss recently penned a piece over at Substack, basically talking about how she was the Levi's brand president and she quit to be free. Now, in this piece, she goes on and on about how she supports Elizabeth Warren, how she was, she's pro BLM and all of this other stuff. But she noted how everything changed when COVID came around because in the very beginning, she questioned whether or not they should be why are we closing down schools when no one's recommending the schools should be closed? And then when they said that they would not reopen, she was literally every single time saying, why are we not looking at the data? Why are we not looking at the science in terms of determining why our schools are being shut down? She wound up eventually moving out of San Francisco to move to Colorado so that her kids could be back in in-person school. Well, in the end, she wound up being let go by the folks over there at Levi because she decided to speak out and be free. And, Mike, this raises a very interesting question for me because you've noticed, especially during COVID and especially also during some of the whole cancel culture, tech and media coming out against people who disagree with the narrative, I've noticed that it's becoming less of a battle or less of a fight between liberals and conservatives and more of a battle between libertarians and authoritarians, people who basically want to get the government out of our lives and want people to be able to make decisions for themselves, and people who want the government to make every decision for us or want the government to have control.
You're right, Craig. A big tenet of the Democrat Party, their base, their voters has always been the stay-at-home mom or the home worker, the home caretaker, right? And over the past 2 years, listen, we just saw it happen in Virginia, right? The Democrat Party has continued to find ways to turn off the homemaker, to turn off that parent at home, that raiser of the children, that home provider has continued to turn them off. And here's just another situation of this: the COVID itself now turns against them. This woman was purely, was on the left. Yet she's the president of Levi. She was the chief marketing officer, worked her way up. And when they started messing with her kids, when they started messing with the education of her children, the basic education of her children, is when she said, I got something for you. I got something for you. So, she turns down $1 million severance package, tells them to get stuffed, moves to Colorado, like you said, and now she's the Democrat Party's worst nightmare. She was their staple of votes that has now gone away and said, "How dare you tell me how to raise my children, or how my children should go to school, or where they should not go to school?"
Well,
They've turned their base. They've turned on their base, and now they realize something's wrong. The same reason Nancy Pelosi is saying, "No, no, we didn't mean to say defund the police. We're not doing that." Next month, the story will be, "No, no, no, no. We didn't mean to tell you how we were going to teach your children." They'll
right,
find a way to come back and lie
right.
about this, but it turned on their base.
Well, you know what's funny, Mike, is the people have accused her of being all sorts of a white supremacist, this, that, and the other. This is her family. Now, as you can see, that's her on the far right, and and those are her children. And as you can see, I'm willing to bet that this is that these are biracial children, or at least multiracial children. These are children that are not the children. Truth is, I believe she's married to a black man, but that's not the issue. The whole point is that they are willing to lie on her, on their, like you said, on their own. They're willing to lie and throw their own under the bus in order to push the narrative that it is that they want to push. And that's really what it is. It's all about pushing the narrative.
If I'm looking at that picture, Craig, and solely looking at that picture and having read the story, right. I know he's been married twice and divorced once. He had 2 children with the first husband, 2 children with the second husband. It looks like perhaps her first husband was black and perhaps her second husband is white. And it's clear from what the children are wearing that they also support LGBTG issues. But here's the woman that should be the prime voter for the Democrat Party that the Democrats are turning away.
Exactly. Well, which, and once again, I don't want to make issues a political issue of it, but should spell a very important thing should spell victory this in the 2022 elections for Republicans, if Republicans don't find a way to muck it up, as we all know they are capable of doing.
There's always that. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our parting shot. This is going to be an homage to the Super Bowl. I know, Mike, you don't watch NFL. You were at a party, a gathering where people were watching the Super Bowl, and you were consuming spirits and good food.
We went to a commercial. We decided, why are we denying ourselves watching the good commercials? So we went to a Super Bowl commercial party. We did.
There you go.
Yeah, it was the commercials. Listen, I've said this before. My boycott of the NFL includes their advertisers.
Right.
I will vote with my wallet, but that does not mean I can't watch a good commercial and make commentary on it. And that's
exactly. So much ado has been made about the Super Bowl halftime show, especially between millennials and Gen Xers. Mike and I are both Gen Xers. So, there's the whole controversy was, they were talking about, this is for the hip hop generation, and how they were talking about how millennials were all nostalgic over the halftime show. But the reality is, if you look at everyone who performed, clearly, with the exception of Eminem and Kendrick Lamar, I take that back. Well, Eminem is I think he may be a Gen Xer, but pretty much, as this points out, PSA, if you recognized everyone in the Super Bowl halftime show, it's time to schedule your first colonoscopy, which means you're probably about 50 years old.
Yep.
Or you're at least over 40, which now I think they recommend them for over 40.
That's it. Yep.
But Mike, I got to tell you, one of the funniest things about the Super Bowl that I saw, in particular about the halftime show, wasn't the halftime show itself, but it was Tyler Perry and his mocking of the halftime show, as demonstrated right here by Medea J. Blige. Here was an Instagram post where she noted this: "I rocked the Super Bowl. Thank you to my tens of fans. I was performing in the parking lot because I think they was jealous." Now, evidently, Mike, this was done in an effort to mock Mary J. Blige and the outfit that she was wearing. And while I realize this looks a little bit extreme, I think if you compare the two side by side, not too far off, eh?
I think Medea's hair might actually be natural.
Oh, this is just hilarious. Once again, I'm tired of I'm really kind of over the hyperbole of the Super Bowl halftime show. My attitude is this. It wasn't the worst show. It wasn't the best show. In fact, it wasn't anywhere near the top 10 of the best shows. But it was the first time that hip hop has been like, it was all hip hop. Normally you get a smidge of hip hop. It was all hip hop. And some people just don't like hip hop music. And thus they did not like the show.
Yep. All right. Quick trivia on the spot. How did hip hop get the name hip hop?
Hip hop, hippie to the hip hop. You don't stop a rocket to the bang bang boogie. Stay up, jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. That's how I got the name hip hop. The first really popular hip hop song was
yeah, Hop by Sugar Hill Gang.
Yeah.
Hip hop.
Hey, how about a quick shout out to the sponsors?
Let's talk to our sponsors, the hip hop stars at the Guerrilla Machining, Grid Defense, and of course our good friends at the California Republican Assembly. Thank you.
Folks, please make sure you visit them, visit their links, and their links are in the description of this video. Visit them and tell them that the folks over at The Rundown sent you. With that, we've got to run, so we'll be heading out. We'll see you tomorrow on Feedback Friday. Please remember, like, share, and subscribe, and encourage your friends to do the same. Hasta mañana.
Tommy Lasorda.